Welcome, everybody. Please keep eating. I know some of you just got your food. Feel free to get up during, get drinks, do whatever you like. We have a good program tonight. Want to give a warm welcome to all the new people that we have here tonight. If you are new to coming to these meetings, if you could stand up, say your name, say what class you are, maybe where you work. Anybody new? All right.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Chiplow from class of 01, and I'm an attorney with the firm O3D. Joe came in class of 2000, years ago, and
Welcome. The new people are great to have. Oh, I'm sorry. Nice. Do you know Luke? He's class of 2003. All right, nice. And yeah, this is your first time here, right?
Luke, class of 2003. Work a little bit further away, Chattanooga, Tennessee, but work for a company called Alumni. Talk about it in a second.
First off, thanks to all for your help as we brought the bicentennial celebration to a wonderful completion. We had over 100 volunteers for St. Louis U High Day, which is the new name for the phone-a-thon, right, John? St. Louis U High Day. It was an exciting night. I wasn't able to be there. I was out of town, but we'll show some pictures from it. And I know everybody had a lot of fun, contacted thousands of alumni. It was very successful. We obviously want to continue that momentum, and we'll talk a little bit about the phone-a-thon in a bit. We're going to get right into the guest speaker, who is Luke Marklin. Guy's pretty incredible. He's class of SLUH 2003. Luke's the CEO of Bellhops, a company that is transforming the $15 billion moving industry. Prior to taking the helm at Bellhops, Luke was an executive at Uber in Nashville, where he started as a manager in Nashville. Did I say that correctly? After several promotions, he was eventually the manager for the entire Southeast region. After graduating from SLUH, Luke earned an engineering degree from Purdue. He worked several years at Emerson here in St. Louis and also in the UK. In 2012, he completed his MBA from Harvard, if you've heard of it, before moving on to his role at Uber. You may remember Luke from a news story last summer. It was kind of the feel-good story of the summer. One of the Bellhops employees had car trouble and couldn't get a ride to his job. So he walked 20 miles in the night to be on time to his job. And Luke was so impressed with his dedication that he gave the employee his car. And obviously that story made national news. It made a ton of us proud. I just found out he just gave the title over a couple weeks ago. So he did make good on the entire car. But I was talking to him a little bit earlier, and you can just tell immediately, for one, he's incredibly polished, incredibly smart, but he's also a family guy. He has two sons. One's 3, I believe. One is 1. So he's kind of in the throes of it. But then also another testament that he's a family guy. His parents are here, which is pretty awesome. So give a warm welcome to Luke.
Hey everybody, thank you so much. Thank you for the really warm welcome, and thanks for the invitation. It is fun to be back. Okay, let's see what we got here. All right, so excited to talk to everybody tonight. I was tasked with talking about how SLUH and entrepreneurship go together. So we're going to dive into that. First, I was going to lead off with who am I? I think we're up to speed pretty well on that. So thank you very much, Jeff. Here's the summary in one slide. 20 years of life. since I started SLUH, which was kind of a weird to pull this slide together. I hadn't done that stat. It's been 20 years since my freshman year of high school. And the last 20 years have involved 3 schools, 4 companies, 9 cities, 2 countries, 1 wife, and 2 boys. And it's been a lot of fun stuff in between. So it's really been a cool experience. And I have I'm not a kind of a fake entrepreneur. I've never actually started a company, so I'm just going to caveat that right now. But I am going to talk a little bit about joining some pretty fast-growing companies and watching them scale, and then talk about how SLUH was very relevant. As I've helped these businesses grow. So, real quick, what is Bellhops? It is a moving company. We are based in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We actually have a very good operation here in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm going to ask a question. Has anyone used Bellhops before? Okay, if I ask the question in Chattanooga, I get a very different answer. So you guys need to find a reason to move some stuff around your house. And I'm hoping this speech will inspire you to go do that. So just real quick, who we are, just so you get a context of why I'm even qualified to stand up here and talk about entrepreneurship. I joined a company, I'm CEO. We are in the moving space and we're transforming a really broken industry. As we said, the industry is like $18 billion. And I guess let me ask another question. For people who have moved, who has had a bad moving experience? All right, there's more hands. All right, I think some people are holding out on us, but usually that penetration rate is around 90%. And that's why we have a business, right? That's a sleepy analog industry that really is operating the same way today as it did in the 1950s. So we've created a brand new model with technology that allows us to get a lot better people, provide a much better experience that ultimately is faster, easier, and smarter. And it's really catching fire. We just finished our Series C. We've raised about $50 million to date. So we closed the round at the end of November last year. And so we're really off to the races and scaling really fast. So it's been an awesome ride to be at the helm. So that's Bellhops. But let's get back to SLUH and talk about how that experience relates to SLUH. And so the question was, talk about entrepreneurship and tie that into SLUH. And so I thought, okay, well, you saw that ramp. There's a lot of formative things there, and every step along the way is formative. What was unique about SLUH that was really important in being an entrepreneur? And so I made a list. I have 14 things. And so for the next hour and a half, I'm going to talk about each of the 14. Okay, I saw someone choke on a chicken wing back there. We're only going to talk about the first 2. We're only going to talk about the first 2. I will mention the third one, passion for learning, was really important as well. But let's just talk about the first 2. Men for Others and AMDG, right? Like those are like the hallmark phrases of SLUH. And you would not usually apply those outside of a theological context. But I'm here to tell you today, they've actually had a very strong impact in my ability to be an entrepreneur. And, I hope they may have influenced your entrepreneurial abilities as well. All right, so let's talk about first, Men for Others. This is one of the hallmark things that I took away from SLUH. Just the idea that, life's about a lot more than just yourself. And it is about the golden rule of treating other people better than you would like to be treated, right? And that is an admirable and laudable thing. And the way that will materialize in entrepreneurship generally involves servant leadership. So provocative statement here. If anyone's hiring these days, there's a war for talent, right? The BLS says unemployment is about, and it's like we're at like full employment, right? Labor markets are really tight. Wages are going up. It is hard to get good people. And when you are a gnat When you are a small company that no one knows about, it's a war and you have very few bullets. And I've experienced that. Trying to get people to join a moving company that no one knew about was very hard. And it is a very competitive environment. But what really will attract the best people and allow you to stand out is actually not throwing around huge salaries, but it's convincing people that they have a great that you have a great culture. And what I've found is that to build an amazing company, to be entrepreneurial, you have to build this great team. And the key is to have a culture where people feel inspired, effective, appreciated, and listened to. And the only way that people will believe that that is at all possible in your company is if they think you are a servant leader. And so that kind of men for others has really helped me build the culture at Bellhops, and it's actually really helped me get some amazing people. Our team is awesome. We are the best. And they generally are attracted to the fact that I care as much about them as I do our business results. Now, it's not just good for team building, but it's also good for business. You can't get a startup off the ground if you're not a servant leader. Every successful startup begins with an idea, right, of how you think the world is different, right? But the only way that you turn that into a product is you test the heck out of it. And the way you test it is you get it, put it on the shelf, and you listen. And so every entrepreneur will tell you that the first month, 2 months, year, until they really get that product market fit is about being a great listener and a great servant. And so that has been a key to how we've built Bellhops and how we've built it as a customer service organization. And so, you know, for us, we don't sell widgets, we sell people doing things. And the way that I like to phrase it is our culture is our product. And the way that I can convince you that you should come move with us is because you're going to have amazing people show up at your door, right? Well, the only way that you're going to have amazing people show up at your door is if they're treated really well. And the only way they're treated really well is if I treat the team really well. And then it's this great virtuous loop. So servant leadership is actually critical to starting a great business. And this Walter Carr story is a good example of that. So, you know, I think Jeff had a great intro to that. The story, you know, Walter, right, he was, you know, Walter had to get to a job. He was penniless and he was carless. We were his last option, and this was his first job with us, and his ride canceled on him the night before. So like Walter showed like an amazing amount of heart and grit for our company, and so it made a lot of sense for me to give him my car. And so obviously what was really cool is the coverage we got from that. I mean, it was a 15 minutes of fame that we never thought would have really happened. We couldn't even have imagined that. I mean, the amount of audience and reach and everything was awesome. And then you know, it just got picked up by every agency. It was really, really fantastic. And I think it goes to show how big of a dearth of servant leadership there is today in the corporate world, right? And in entrepreneurial environments. And if you have it, it's rare. And it allows you to be actually a better leader and build a better company. And so the press was really cool, but what really mattered was that one, Walter's life was permanently changed. He went from no car, no money to car, and he had a GoFundMe that had $90,000 in it, which was awesome. And then, you know, people got to see a little bit about Bellhops that was very different too, right? Like most people's picture of moving is like a couple guys throwing your sofa down a stair. We actually are like a servant-led company, right? And people got to see what we were we showed that heart and that grit, and when we see it, we're going to put our money where our mouth is. We're going to give away everything we can to reinforce that. And it was awesome. It was great. It's great. All right, so that's number one. If you're a servant leader, you're going to build a better business. Number two, AMDG, greater glory of God, right? All right, how does this have anything to do with entrepreneurship? Well, I'm just going to say it right now. It's a terrible idea to start an early stage company. I'm just going to tell you this. So any burgeoning entrepreneurs in the room, it's a really bad idea. Don't do it. And here's my proof on why it's a really bad idea to start a company. Okay, so who has heard, has anyone heard of Y Combinator? Okay, maybe a few people. So Y Combinator is a startup incubator and accelerator that is in California, and it's the number one. It's the most preeminent place for startups to go to join a startup community. They go through a program, and then you come out the other side ready to raise a lot of money, raise a lot of venture money. So let's look at some of the funnel metrics for Y Combinator, right? So over the last, I think it's 10 years, Y Combinator's had 120,000 applications. So roughly 120,000 companies are starting to start their business and get into Y Combinator, of which 1,900 are accepted. So 1.5%. All right, now I'm going to do a little, polling here. Next question. How many of those 1,900 companies that are already super selective, you already went from 120,000 to 1,900. How many of those have achieved a $100 million valuation? Like where you really start to get into the real money in startup world. How? Just say them. 20. Okay, I'm hearing low numbers. Okay, so maybe I've scared the room a little bit too much. So it's 64, but it's still really low, right? So it's 3.4% of the 1.5%, or 0.05% of companies get past the $100 million mark. We got past it last year, thank God. But not many people do that. And so it's just, you basically have a 1 in 2,000 chance of getting it, right? So it's a bad idea. It's a terrible idea. So why do we do it? Why did I leave Emerson, right? They happen to have this crazy thing called cash flow. Why did I leave that company for two companies that are very good at burning money, right? Like, why did I do that? Well, I think the best way I can describe it is the framework of why, how, what. There's a book called Start With Why. Some people know it. Some people have read it. It's a great book. Simon Sinek is a pretty one of the major kind of leaders of kind of organizational theory right now. He wrote this book called Start With Why. And his concept is that every great business has kind of the golden circle of why, how, and what. They know why they exist, and that determines how and what they do. The same thing goes for entrepreneurs. Every great entrepreneur is driven by some ambitious, optimistic why. It's generally a feeling like you just can't put it down. You don't know necessarily why you feel that way, but it's just this deeply held belief that something is wrong and you should fix it. And you just can't get rid of it, right? And I think SLUH owns that. I think SLUH owns that concept. And the way I would say it is, I would actually say that the most important thing you learn at SLUH about being an entrepreneur is not math and science, it's actually theology. And I can think of like junior year theology class questioning like meaning of life, does God exist, etc. And like that's the same things that you have to think about. It's like this established industry, why does it exist? Is it really serving customers the best way? And then the conviction that you have from that and the leap of faith that you take from that is actually really powerful and what drives you to be an amazing entrepreneur. And so I think it applies to that business idea, but I also think it applies to your life. And SLUH's been really good about giving people the framework that it's not just about, life is not just about a life in the suburbs, although that's not a bad thing. But it's about impact. It's about doing something, right? And, the reason you throw everything away and take this really risky bet is just because at the end of the day, the biggest risk in your life is not taking that chance versus taking the chance and failing. So to wrap it up, I think the entrepreneurial journey I've been on has been hinged on three things: the passion from learning from SLUH, a desire to serve, and a desire to make a positive impact. And, wouldn't be here if I hadn't gone to school here 20 years ago. And then the last thing is I've also learned from the Catholic Church maybe is to not bury the ask. So if you need any moving, get at bellhops.com. We're happy to help you. 888-836-3939. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. My apologies. Yeah, let's do it. I did not partake in the pre-dinner beverages. So, I'm probably not going to have as good of answers but I will try. All right, go ahead. Yes, sir. The question was, how did I leave Uber to go to bellhops? It was a couple of reasons. I think one was, Uber was getting to a point where a lot of what we were doing was maintaining and putting out fires versus building. We actually grew really, really fast and got to kind of a point where a lot of my job was just putting out fires. It was 2017 was delete Uber, and there's just a lot of PR stuff, and all I was doing was just kind of fixing that. So that I was starting to think, okay, maybe I can do some better. But then it was two other things. One was the problems in moving are the same problems that in the transportation industry. The taxi industry is run pretty much the same way moving companies run. And so I knew I had a playbook to fix it. And the culture at bellhops was that servant heart culture that I wanted to be a part of. So it was an easy decision after I got to know the company. Yes, sir.
It's so different from the top-down management paradigm that you're talking about. Is this generational? Is this happening with your age group now? The servant leadership, we need a little bit more of that.
I think so. Yeah, I won't name names or anything, but I was at companies before that were more mature. And I remember being at a dinner where they just it was like a dinner with a bunch of people in my class. And just, one of the executives was like, what is wrong with people these days? We, for 20 years would just ask people to move, pick up their life and move every 2 years. And now they don't want to do it. What is wrong with them? What is wrong with this generation? And I was like, well, I don't know, maybe because they got better options now. It's a realization that it's not that millennials are they're entitled or that they don't want to do the hard work. I actually found at Uber people worked 10x as hard as anywhere in the mature businesses I was at before. They served dinner at Uber at 9 o'clock, meaning people were at the office at 9 and then they would go back to their desk and we worked till 12 every night. So we worked really hard. So it wasn't that. It was just this idea that you needed to be a company person. And that's over. That is just dead. Because the job markets are transparent. You got LinkedIn, you got recruiters calling you all the time. Why do I need to spend 20, 30 years with the hope that something will happen at the end when I can, instead live a life where I'm happy in the meantime and I'm in the geography that I love and with the family that is in a good spot. And if I can have my cake and eat it too, I'm going to do it. And so that's why I think, you got to flip the script. You can't just assume people are going to work for your company. You got to have the company work for them. Thank you. Okay, so I should have said that. We are in St. Louis. We are in St. Louis. Yeah, and actually St. Louis is a great growing market for us. So, you know. so we're in. So really, where we've been is like, yes, a geographic kind of circle around Chattanooga. So Atlanta's our biggest city. We've grown to Nashville and other places, but beginning of last year when I started, we're in 15 markets. We're now in 25. And our ambition this year is to be in 50. Take the capital and really push it to get into a lot of new cities. And then next year, really connect the dots and do a lot more long distance moving. So that's really the goal. So we're in St. Louis. So if you need us, we do it all. You know, love to put my money where my mouth is and have people try it out. Go ahead.
I think I have one question. What are the numbers of the paper?
Yeah.
And that dragging him.
That's a very good point. So there's a fork in the road you have to make kind of in the entrepreneurial journey. And that is, am I going to raise outside money or not? If I raise venture money, if you get below that, you're like, you've diluted yourself, and usually you get off on expectations. Because venture money is basically, I'm going to give you this, and you're either going to go really big or you're going to blow up, right? So I should be very clear that there's a lot of successful entrepreneurs that do it a much more methodical, smarter way that are very successful at evaluation, a lot less than that. So it should be very clear on that. Maybe this is more localized around the kind of high growth venture industry, which is a high beta industry. Yeah, go ahead. So I wish that I had, I wish that I could take claim for that. Because I think it's a great name. You know, the essential theme is what's lacking in moving is hospitality. Like, you wouldn't really think of a moving experience as a hospitable type of experience. And that's generally what we try to do is, you know, at a very basic level, we're way more reliable than other moving companies. But then at the higher levels, we're your moving concierge, who's going to take care of everything during a very stressful time. And that's why bellhops made sense. I was a civil engineer. So yeah, I mean, that was my kind of, you know, I was told if I went past 10 minutes, the hook was going to come out. But if I had a little bit longer, I was going to talk about lifelong learning. And like, you know, started as a civil engineer and then, you know, kind of found my way here. So, you know, part of being an entrepreneur is just pivoting. Let's do it. Yeah, that's a very great and fair question, certainly in the context of like men for others and greater glory of God, right? We should talk about that. I do think it's a moral company, a lot more moral now that the former CEO is gone versus if it was before. Like, I do think he was not the pinnacle of virtue. But like, him aside, like, is the business model and the people that I worked with moral? I think so. Like, you know, the counter stats that I would just provide are like, you know, DUIs have gone down a lot. A lot less people are dying on the roads. You know, taxi cab drivers can drive for Uber. But taxi owners are usually the ones who kind of hold the taxi cab drivers hostage. And actually, most of the Uber drivers that I knew who were former taxi cab drivers felt liberated. So I think it's just a broader, I think, and we've seen it with Facebook, we've seen it with Google. Innovation done without the proper safeguards can wreak havoc and cause problems. And I'm not saying Uber was perfect. But I don't think innovation and rethinking old industries is a bad thing because of really there's a lot of net good and a lot of consumer benefit that happens. So that's just my opinion. Cool. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, everyone. And thank you so much.
Told you it was awesome. I also told him he could go as long as he wanted because we just take time away from John Pania, who doesn't decide to dress up for us anyway. And I'm going through a renovation on my house and I can't convince my friends to help me do anything. So we're definitely calling you guys to help move stuff from my basement back out to my first floor. Be awesome. So we're going to talk about a couple things about us, about the alumni board and what we do. And you've probably heard me say this a couple of times. We're not just a drinking club. We actually have a purpose. We're here for a reason. And at its core, we're here to learn about the school, talk about the school, spread the word, but also to help the school, to raise money, to work on phone-a-thons, to work on special events. We're structured in somewhat of a loose way. Many of you know this, and some of the newbies, you'll be hearing this for the first time, but we have a 4-person executive committee. Tom and Dick and Burns, when he decides to show up, we're the 4, and the president is in his last year of its 4-year term, and so this is my last year, and then I'll roll off and I'll get to eat dinner, and then there's a new person on. So that's kind of been the rotation, and we've had a lot of great 4-person executive committees who do a lot, including a lot of work on the bicentennial work and leading the phone-a-thons and helping with reunions. But that is the expectation. Outside of that 4-person group, our expectation is that we make the meetings, that we listen, have a great time, enjoy camaraderie, obviously go spread the word, like I said. And then periodically there are a couple additional committees. And Alan and the advancement group and the executive committee, we've been getting together and talking about how to make this more meaningful for everyone. And we realized a couple things. That the school has some specific needs that aren't being met and they can't meet it on their own. But then also there's a want with our group to do more. Brian Kloss, who's not here tonight, he recently started coming to the meetings and he works at Stiefel, so I see him all the time. But every time I see that guy, he says, what can I do? What can I do? And I say, I'll get back to you, I'll get back to you. Sometimes I'm just busy, sometimes I don't exactly have something to pull out of my pocket, but he wants to do something. And everybody kind of wants to be involved in their own way. Not everybody can spend, X amount of time on the bicentennial or whatever, and everybody's different points in their life, whether you have 2 kids that are 1 and 3, or, mine are 5 and 5 and 7. Some people don't have any kids at all. Everybody has different amounts of time. But the point is everybody wants to be involved. So over the course of the next 12 months, we're gonna roll out a couple various needs that the advancement committee has identified that the school really needs. And starting tonight, we're gonna roll out the first one, which it's new. We just sat to talk about it yesterday. Joe hates the name, but we're calling it the Holes Committee. There are holes in, for instance, who from the class of 75 is here? Nobody. Who from the class of 76 is here? Awesome. So we don't have a hole in 76, but we have a hole in 75. And so we need to figure, and we could do that at every meeting. There's never somebody here from 75. That doesn't mean it was a bad class. It doesn't mean they don't care. It might just mean that they weren't contacted, or maybe some of the leaders who originally were very strong leaders moved out of town. And maybe when they moved back, they didn't think, I should go back to St. Louis U High and be involved. Maybe they don't even know we meet 4 times a year. A lot of times it's just outreach. The first time I moved back here from the East Coast at the end of 2007, at the same time Bob Wacker about a year later after Bob Wacker had moved back from Chicago. And he said, you got to join the Alumni Club. But what he really meant was you have to take my spot. But it didn't matter what he meant. He just meant we're doing this, and now you know about it, now you have to be involved. And so there have been other people that I've said, you got to come to these meetings, like Brian Klaus, who I just mentioned. So all we need to do is really find somebody from the class of 75, somebody that wants to be dedicated, who's just never been asked before. So we have this committee. And Joseph, I think there are things on the table to sign. There's going to be a second one. Our goal on this committee is going to be to find 1 to 3 people from each one of these classes. And then they're on their own. Then they can be their own holes committee inside their own class, and they can find all the people that they used to know and see if they want to be involved. And what we found is if you have a core 10 to 15 people, that means the same people don't have to show up to the phone-a-thons and to every event and every committee, and the same person doesn't have to organize the reunion. You can kind of spread the responsibilities, you can kind of roll on and off, but you're represented, which is important. It's especially important in development where you're trying to get SLUH, which is phenomenal. It sounds terrible when you say it. I think we're at 28% giving. When you really say that, you think that's terrible. How come everybody's not giving? But that's a great number. And the goal is to get to 30. And this is one of the ways where we could get to 30. And we do think that people will come back or just be involved. Even if they didn't have a great experience here, it's not who you were, it's who you are. And I think if you're successful in the community or if you just want to be involved, you will. Second thing, so please sign up for that. We're going to collect them at the end of the night, leave it on the table. If you want to be on the holes committee, all we need 5 people, and I'll be on it, and Tom and Dick and Burns, if he decides to show up, will be on it too. The second thing, phone-a-thon. And John Pania is going to talk about the phone-a-thon, but these two are connected because the phone-a-thon is led by the class. And so we happen to be lucky in the class of 98. We're a pretty strong class. We'll pat ourselves in the back for a second. But it's exactly what I just said. I don't have to be at everything for the class of 98 because I know that my brothers will come and do it too. And so when they're out of town or when their kids got a problem or they're moving or whatever it is, I can be there and we talk about it. So that communication in our class helps the advancement group because they don't have to do it. I think we found that if you've been with your classmates, you're more willing to support them than necessarily just kind of a blind call from advancement. And that doesn't say anything about advancement. That's across every single college, university, high school, grade school, and nobody does it better than SLUH, and it's hard. So our involvement in these things are really important. So that probably brings us to the phone-a-thon and to John Pania, who wore shorts. So John's going to give an update on that, and he's also doing the February Frenzy, which is a fantastic thing. And John invented, I believe, February Frenzy a couple years ago.
Thank you.
Take
Thanks,
it away.
Jeff. Thanks, everybody. I'm fresh off the pool deck at MICDS while we are having some pool issues up at FOPO. But the water polo season is underway, but I'm glad that I could make it to the meeting tonight and talk to you. We talked a little bit about the phone-a-thon last time, but those of you who were here, I think, I hope that it kind of reset the idea of what a phone-a-thon is and could be and will be in the future of a fun night in this entire room with the wall open and lots of energy. We use the word energy a lot when we were planning the night, and I think it came to fruition when we actually got to the evening and were able to see people excited about being at SLUH, excited about making phone calls, asking for money, which isn't always the case. Certainly, I know that when we would be in the Kurgan room and it would be one class and it would be 2 of you, there wasn't a lot of energy, and that's not to say anything against you 2 wonderful people who were here to be volunteers on our behalf. But again, just having a full room, I mean, it truly was fun. It was fun for me. I think it was fun for everyone whom I talked to and were able to be there. So the phone-a-thon will definitely, and we're gonna possibly get away from phone-a-thon, that word, as Jeff mentioned, and just call it St. Louis U High Day. just so that, again, resetting the idea of what it means to come to SLUH and ask people for money. And that's another nice segue into the February Frenzy, which is an alumni effort that we started. This is now our 5th year for the classes of 1990 through 2012. And I think, Luke is a perfect example about, what SLUH students can become. And really this room, this whole board it's full of alumni that we are proud of. We who work at St. Louis U High every day, we're proud of you guys, to see you out in the communities, to hear the things that you're doing, whether it's giving a car to an employee or whatever it is. We're really proud of that, and that's why we love sharing our stories in our magazines and our websites and all of our updates. February Frenzy and all the things that we do, but these things support the Luke Marklands of the world and even the Jeff Rombachs and John Panelias of the world that are at SLUH right now. I know I'm proud to work here, and Sean and Joe and Linda, we're all proud to be here because we help kids come to St. Louis U High. We help get the money that allows the experience of SLUH to be what you remember, and truthfully, hopefully even a little bit better than you remember, because that's what we want for our kids today. So you guys who were here from the class of 90 through 2012, I hope you will help me. I hope tonight has inspired you to help me. As Jeff said, the peer-to-peer is so huge. So if you can spread the word. Tomorrow's the last day of the February Frenzy. We've had hundreds of gifts so far, but we had almost 600 last year. We need your help to spread the word. Alan Carruthers talks about the giants before us. We are the giants now. There were guys when I was at school, the alums from the 50s and 60s and 70s helped SLUH be what it was for me. And now it's our turn to kind of take that torch and let it be on us to provide that experience for our guys. So again, my peers in the 90s and 2000s, I think we can say without a doubt, almost everyone who came to SLUH loves SLUH. And I think of that group, almost everyone can give at least $10. And there's some that can give $100, and there's some that can give $1,000. So if you can be inspired by tonight and encourage your classmates, whether it's an email or a text or a phone call, to just tell them why you love SLUH and why you're giving to SLUH and why you come to board meetings and why you, every once in a while, put in your credit card number on sluh.org/donate. It really means a lot. So thank you. I'll be sending out more information to you guys again tomorrow. But again, it makes a world of difference for our boys today, and I'm really proud to be part of it all. So thanks a lot.
We handle that in an email blast from our class. So when John sends it out, Chris Kellett, who is every year is our email guy, just because people recognize seeing his come in and over and over and over. It's descriptive. It's no, but we do some of that stuff. So here in, I'm sure you've gotten mailers on this, but Cash Ball is coming up. The Cash Ball Golden Gala, 50. This is the 50th anniversary of the Cash Ball auction. Please consider attending and maybe get some classmates together and get a table. Saturday, May 18th is the Lee Barra O2 Memorial Golf Tournament in Forest Park. It's a benefit for a scholarship at St. Louis U High in memory of Major Lee Barra, class of 2002, an Air Force test pilot who unfortunately died in a plane crash. Saturday, April 27th, St. Louis U High Baseball 100th anniversary celebration. All former players are invited, honoring Coach Steve Nicolerat, who retired this year after 39 years as a head coach. Steve Nicolerat's story, I was at Salt and Smoke, Tom Schmidt's restaurant in South City. And out of the blue, Steve Nicolerat just sent drinks over to my wife and me. And it was one of the coolest things just to have an old, great teacher send you something just out of the blue. 22nd, the Alumni Board Appreciation Dinner. So that's always a great dinner. The highlight of that dinner is a graduating senior, generally somebody going to Yale, who's going to talk to you and blow your socks off. Friday, June 21st, if you want to get my name off that cup, the Father Hagen Alumni Cup Golf Tournament. It's a fantastic tournament. It is not a fundraiser. It is for alumni camaraderie. A couple years ago, we got the cost down. It's about having fun. It's about being together. We sell out every year. So definitely sign up for that. Saturday, June 22nd, reunion nights for the classes of 2014 and 2009. And now, Sean Annual has volunteered. I'm sure he was told. Alan Carruthers and Melissa Jones are both traveling this week, meeting with donors in California to secure millions and millions of dollars for the Go Forth campaign. So Sean's going to give our school update. And then, it's a great treat, he's going to take us to the Innovation Lab for anybody who chooses to go. Thanks.
This is like getting the State of the Union from like the Undersecretary of the Interior, I think. Thank you, Jeff, and Luke, thank you. This year, the theme for the students is solidarity. And Luke, it is so good to have you with us. Thank you for being here and sharing your story, and in particular, the reflection on servant leadership. I think a lot of what we are up to is trying to form those leaders of competence, compassion, conscience, and commitment to justice. And so we really appreciate your presence here. It ties in very well with what we're doing. You guys have been talked at for a long time, though, it seems to me. So what if we take a break and do a brief little video? I found out, I was talking with an alum who's in the entertainment business, and they call this, when they're pitching a TV show or something, they call this a sizzle, I learned. And I said, oh, that's great, we've got a sizzle. So I'm gonna show you our sizzle, and then I'll come back with a proper school update. Joe, how's it going with the sizzle? It's entirely possible that
Every day we come from miles apart. We come from one-bedroom apartments and two-story homes. We drive, bike, and take the bus from more than 90 zip codes on both sides of the river. Our parents are executives, plumbers, university professors, and cab drivers. We represent diverse cultures, perspectives, and backgrounds. We are scholars, artists, athletes, and campus ministers. We represent St. Louis. We are many unique parts, yet one unified body. We share a drive to become prolific learners and critical thinkers of high moral caliber. We are brothers united in Christ, committed to justice and service. We promote solidarity and serve the common good. We are blessed with a 200-year tradition of excellence, inspired by St. Ignatius of Loyola. We are grateful for our past, but we are not looking back. Now is our time to take our school to the future. It's our time to become master innovators, to create new opportunities. Now is our time to shine for the greater glory of God. It's face impossible challenges to push the boundaries of imagination. It's our time to expand our mindset and how we view the world. It's our time to make the mold, set the standard, and raise the bar. SLUH. We are called to go forth into our third century, to go forth for our city, for our nation, and for the world. Now is the time to fan our flame and set the world on fire.
Thank you, Joe. The sizzle was created for our Go Forth campaign, and we'll spend time at our May meeting, and we can go a little bit deeper into the campaign and what it's about. I'm gonna try to say a few interesting things about where we are as a school today. If I can't be interesting, I'll at least be brief. And then we'll end with people who want to see the new Costigan Innovation Lab, a gift of the Guth Foundation. We'll have that open and available for tours. This is one of the first fruits of the Go Forth campaign. And so we'll get more into the weeds of it all, and hopefully by the end of the May meeting, you'll have a deep understanding of that. But Joe and I will be there, and Linda too, happy to talk with you about where we are with the campaign today and how this Innovation Lab is helping to form our young men as entrepreneurs for tomorrow. I've been plagued by this dream. Do you guys ever have this dream where you decided to skip a math class all semester and then it's exam time? It visits me every once in a while. Anyway, our kids are having that dream right now because a week after next is exam week here. Our guys are getting ready for quarter exams. And so what better time than to have mission week? So this week, our guys are celebrating. They're having fun. We had student versus teacher basketball, knee hockey tournament, head shaving, open mic night, can stacking contest. I don't know what that is, but they did that today apparently. Dress like a teacher day, and then a blowout mixer this Friday. This is, we're in the throes of the academic year and our guys are having fun. Mission Week is intended to raise money to support important ministries throughout the world, but also it's educational. So our guys are learning about food security and food instability in different parts of the world as a part of this Mission Week. So it's a mix of fun activities that are happening at a time right before they're about to get hammered with exams. Seniors spent 3 weeks in January on senior projects, and more these have become international opportunities for our guys. Tomorrow's Thursday, yes? Tomorrow, Thursday, the SLUH magazine will come out in digital format. And so check your inbox tomorrow for the SLUH magazine, and you'll see in there some really cool testimonies about our guys doing international service in January. And you can find an online blog of the junior bills who were in Russia, who were in China, who were in kinds of service they were doing, and their theological reflection on those experiences. We've also had student trips recently to Washington, D.C. for the March for Life, and to meet with SLUH alumni who are in politics, who are civic leaders. And then as well, we had a group that was in the Bay Area, meeting with alumni working in Silicon Valley. We also had Junior Fitz Kane took third place at the regional Poetry Out Loud competition. So the humanities are alive and strong at the U High. On a somber note, you may have heard that Will Smith from the class of 2018 was killed in a surfing accident on Valentine's Day. He's a freshman in college in Santa Barbara, and he was surfing, and he was the victim of just a terrible accident. And make you aware of that. On Friday is his wake. On Saturday will be his funeral at Mary Queen of Peace. But a week ago today, at the 7:20 a.m. Mass, we had, it was his classmates from 2018 and their parents. Will's parents were very involved in our parent community. And so we had the normal 7:20 a.m. Mass was for Will. And hundreds of people were there. His classmates, the parent community from 2018. And I guess I want to share in particular, I was moved by how many of our seniors were there. A normal 7:20 a.m. Mass on a Wednesday. This was not a guy in their class that they may have known that well, but a lot of our seniors made that mass a priority, and I think it speaks loudly about who we are as a SLUH community. Other happenings this weekend, so please keep the Smith family in your prayers. A couple of sports happenings. The Racket Bills, I think you say, came home with another state championship recently, and they will compete in a national tournament here in St. Louis in this next week. And our hockey team, as you may know, is in the playoffs, and they will battle Kirkwood this Saturday at the St. Peter's Recplex. I think you should get there early. It's a 9:15 a.m. game. It will be rowdy, it will be fun, and we will beat Kirkwood, I'm sure. So that's where we are at the U-High. I'll save you from all of the statistics that I think you've heard many times, but I think our ACT scores continue to be very strong. With like the last 5 years, we've averaged a 30, and we continue to be very proud of our academic program. There's a lot happening in terms of looking at our curriculum and trying to stay forward-looking in how we're putting together our academic program and our faith formation programs. And we can get into some of that certainly when you visit the Innovation Lab or when we talk in more depth about Go Forth. Thank you all for your attention and your time. And Joe will open the Innovation Lab now. And okay. So please, there is a rule. There is a rule, I'm afraid. So you're welcome to have another drink, but we're not supposed to bring food or drink into the Innovation Lab. So you're welcome to hang out here and take your time. We're glad to have you around. Or please make your way down the hall and check out the Innovation Lab. Thank you all very much.
Thanks again, everybody. If it wasn't abundantly clear, Luke traveled to come here to talk to everybody. So difficult to come here to St. Louis to talk and share his time. So thanks again for Luke. I believe we have a gift for Luke. I'm sure he'll love it. But just wanted to thank everybody again for coming. Sign up for the Holes Committee. It's going to be important to us, and we're going to hound you about it, and we're going to work hard on it. We're going to fill the holes, and then sign up for I believe that's right below that, if you'd like to be a part of it. And if you don't sign up, we're going to ask you anyway. I thought that video was hilarious. Just one last anecdote. The reason why the where'd you go to high school question is hilarious to me is it doesn't mean anything for SLUH. Where'd you go to high school? You don't know anything about somebody other than they're smart and hardworking. And that video is a perfect example. You could be from South County, which is where I grew up. You could be from Clayton, North County. That video was fantastic. Like, great job on that. Can you download the video?
Yeah, go SLUH.org,
If you didn't hear that, it's available at SLUH.org at the Go Forth campaign, and we'll send a link out from the Alumni Board. Thank you all very much. Have another drink. Go to the Innovation Lab. See you in a couple months.
I just said yeah, right. That sounds great to see you.
Yeah. Yeah, she's gonna be able.